Hello and welcome to the sideboard here at the Players Championship. I'm Ken Crocker here with at-large bid winner Todd Anderson. Todd, how you feeling today?
Feeling great, man. This is going to be a lot of fun.
All right, so we're going to run through a deck tech for your standard deck, and it probably should come as no surprise that you decided to play Jeskai Black.
Yeah, I made some changes at the Invitational in Las Vegas, and they worked out really well. I had an epiphany moment at 4 in the morning on Thursday night.
When all good epiphanies happen.
Yeah, I just couldn't sleep because Jerry brought some friend who snored all night. And yeah, I decided that Mentor should be in the main deck.
Sure.
We had it in the sideboard as a plan for Abzan, but I figured Abzan would just be really popular.
So yeah, you're running 3 Mentor, but you're not running any Dragon Master Outcast.
Yeah, so Dragon Master Outcast, I found that a lot of time, like it was a great way to close games, but it was such a bad card to draw before like turn 6 or 7 that, you know, it just wasn't worth playing in the deck. And it was great alongside things like Ojutai's Command, and because we cut the Dragon Master Outcast, we also cut the Ojutai's Commands.
So we'll get to that. You do say you cut the Ojutai's Commands, and instead you're playing 2 Culligan's Commands. So Culligan's Command does bring back stuff from the graveyard too, but what's the difference here between Culligan's Command and Ojutai's Command?
So one is a proactive way to return creatures from your graveyard to either your hand or play, while also killing an opposing creature. Culligan's Command is a gigantic swingy card in any sort of mirror match, and honestly, it's just a great card. The only matchup that it's not great in is Abzan. So
did you not think you'd run into a lot of Abzan? Or
well, that's why we're only playing 2.
Okay.
If I would play 3 or 4 if Abzan wasn't a deck.
Sure.
The card is just unbelievable.
All right, so you're also running 3 Fiery Impulse and 1 Wild Slash.
Yeah.
So why the 1 Wild Slash over the 4th Fiery Impulse?
So because we're playing Monastery Mentor, I wanted to be able to have a little bit of, I want to say...
A little bit of reach?
Yeah, not reach. It's more so just being able to cast a spell without being restricted on having a target. So Wild Slash can target the player to protect it from an opposing Fire Impulse or Wild Slash without spell mastery. Or just give you a token and deal a little bit of damage to a Gideon or something like that. It's just a way to trigger prowess that's not as restrictive as Fire Impulse.
Fair enough. So we also see that you're running 2 main deck Duress. So you're not running any Dispels. So what's the difference between Dispel and Duress? I mean, you have access to blues, so you're not like an Abzan deck that's going to run Duress. So you could run Dispel, and it's been very good in this format. We've seen it main deckable pretty much in every tournament.
Yeah.
But you decided to run 2 Duress instead of any Dispels. Why is that?
So because we're playing main deck Painful Truths, and we just wanted a card that we could play early on to make it so that when we cast Painful Truths on turn 3 or 4, we're not discarding. And Duress versus Dispel, a lot of times Dispel gets stuck in your hand for a little while. I mean, the turn where you cast it is usually great.
Sure.
But Duress is going to be something you can proactively play to disrupt your opponent early on. Works really well with Jace when you can minus and target something, whereas Dispel you can't. And it just helps trigger Mentor too, the turn where you cast it, if your opponent might be tapped out or what have you.
So you have a lot of 1-drops in your deck, so that way you can get a lot of value off playing Monastery Mentor and then a 1-drop.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. So one more question. Why the 2 Treasure Cruise? Why not Dig Through Time? I mean, you already are running 3 Painful Truths. You're already running a lot of card draw. Perhaps some card selection through Dig Through Time might be better or worse, given the Treasure Cruise.
So me and Jerry are actually on opposite sides of the fence on this because he really likes Dig Through Time, and I love Treasure Cruise.
Well, who doesn't love drawing free cards?
Yeah,
so.
I know, right? For 1 mana usually. No, I mean, you guys have seen my deck for the last 2 months. It's the only thing I've been playing. And Dig Through Time was a 4 of for forever. And it was always really, really good. But we slowly discovered, Michael Majors, myself, Brad Nelson, just over time that raw card advantage was just better because your deck is at its heart a Soulfire Grandmaster deck, and a deck that uses that is just super mana hungry. And I was finding about a 1/3 or a 1/4 of the times I would cast Dig Through Time, I would grab a land.
Oh,
and even though, I mean, if you notice in this version, we have way fewer 1-ofs.
Yeah.
Whereas previous versions I had just like 2, 3, 4 1-ofs or whatever for Dig Through Time. And Treasure Cruise now, though, we're just like hard like 2s and 3s with just like, you know, we have the 3-1 split on Fire Impulse, Wild Slash, but
sure.
It's not a huge difference in that card. And Treasure Cruise, you know, is a much better card when you have a high density of powerful 2s and 3s as opposed to singletons.
All right, and then obviously we have your suite of fetch lands. You're actually running the 3 Mystic Monasteries as well in order to help along with the blue and red white mana, because I know you're not running a lot of white in this deck, except for the 2 Shambling Vent.
Yeah.
So the Shambling Vents in a Jeskai black deck has been somewhat new. You're actually running 2 here. How does that hurt your mana, help your mana in this case? Because coming into play tapped, obviously, you like you said, your deck's mana hungry. So having 2 come into play tap lands seems like it might hurt that kind of aspect.
So one thing about Painful Truce and Treasure Cruise, you will get flooded. Every now and then it's just going to happen. You can't really do anything about it other than just changing your deck. Shambling Vent is a card that allows you to not only fix the colors of your mana, even though that comes into play tapped, but it also gives you something to do with your mana. And in this format, pressuring Gideon is gigantic for a number of reasons. And the fact that Shambling Vent is a 2/3 also means that they can't trade it with a 2/2 Knight Ally token.
Okay.
So if, like, a lot of times you can just end of turn, kill the Knight that they make and untap an attack with Shambling Vent and Soulfire Grandmaster to kill their Gideon. If you have enough mana, sometimes you can Crackling Doom into attack with Shambling Vent. So the card has been great. I think that it's a little awkward with the mana sometimes because that and Mystic Monastery don't pair well with the battle lands.
Sure.
But I think it's just worth the trade-off.
So speaking of the battle lands, we obviously have an amount of basic lands to fetch for as well. You're actually running a 1/2, 1, and 1 with the Swamp. So why 2 Mountain over 2 of anything else? I mean, you're mostly Jeskai, right? So it would seem like you'd maybe run 2 blue instead.
So the island is actually the worst card in the deck because it doesn't cast Crackling Doom. And you never really want to fetch the island unless it's absolutely necessary. If you ever fetch an island on 2 to cast Jace, you're not going to be able to Crackling Doom until turn 4, which is it's a death sentence against Abzan. And against a lot of decks, like, you're not going to be able to double spell either on like turn 4 and 5 because you can't go Crackling Doom and play like Fire Impulse.
Fire Impulse or Wild Slash.
Yeah, I find myself fetching Mountain early a lot, and I'm very happy when it's in my opening hand. So, I mean, for a time I was playing 3 Mountains and then 1/1/1 of the others.
Sure.
But since we added the Shambling Vents, something had to go, and one of the third Mountain was excessive. So
fair enough.
The second one I think is great.
All right, so let's go to your sideboard, and this is kind of important because in a 16-player field, the sideboard probably matters a lot more since you are gunning for certain decks, obviously. So we'll talk about this. Now, this seems to be look like your control sort of suite. Obviously, you said that Kolaghan's Command wasn't very good against like Abzan, so I have to assume then that you're also bringing in against control deck, maybe Esper Dragons. So the Dispel and the Negate also for Esper Dragons deck. Were you looking to hunt down Esper Dragons with these cards here?
I don't think anybody's playing Esper Dragons.
You don't think anybody here is playing Esper Dragons?
There might be 1 or 2. I don't know.
1 or 2.
I feel like the Jeskai Black is going to be highly represented. I think that Dispel and Negate are just solid cards against other Kolaghan's Command decks.
Okay.
Negate is specifically better in this format, I think, than something like Disdainful Stroke, which I've played in the past, because people are moving way more towards Painful Truce as their draw spell. So Negate can counter Kolaghan's Command, Painful Truce, or Treasure Cruise, or Dig Through Time.
Or Bring to Light.
Yeah, or Bring to Light, or what have you. Whereas Disdainful Stroke can only counter, you know, a smaller subset of just bigger things. So.
Gotcha. So no Esper Dragons, so you weren't hunting them down.
Not really.
So then, can we talk about the 2 Ob Nixilis Reignited? So most of the time I've seen this on the sideboard of any deck, it's usually just 1 of. And you decided to run 2. So what exactly are you bringing this in against?
We're going hard against Jeskai Black, man. We just want to beat the mirror. The card is just unbelievable on turn 5. You know, we go up to 3 Duresses in the mirror, so we're able to just make sure that the coast is clear turn before, and hopefully they just don't draw the counterspell.
Sure.
And then when you cast Ob Nixilis, you either get to kill their Jace or Soulfire or whatever, or you can just start ticking up immediately. And it's kind of like a more expensive Painful Truce, because not only does it usually get you about 2 cards worth before it dies, or more, hopefully, but they also have to deal with it, and they're spending time and resources to deal with it, and that's usually great for you.
And then finally here we got a Ruinous Path, which we haven't really seen played a lot of. Is there any point in which you're awakening this card, or is it just basically to try to kill Gideons?
It's mostly just to kill Gideon. I mean, I could see myself casting it with Awaken. The games go really long, and I think my goal is to Soulfire Awaken Ruinous Path.
That's a lot of mana.
It is a lot of mana. That's my goal.
One more thing, Radiant Flames here. Now this is interesting. Most of your creatures die to Radiant Flames. Like you have monk tokens that will just get cleared out.
Oh no.
Obviously, it's here for something. So are you worried about other token decks, or is this mostly for like a Tarka Red?
So there are just a lot of decks in the format that could potentially overwhelm me in various ways. And if I don't have Monetary Mentor in play to keep up with them, I just need a reset.
Okay.
And Radiant Flames is just one of the best cards against something like a Tarka Red. It's also really good against other Monetary Mentor decks because I'm probably going to be a little more controlling than them.
Sure.
And I don't know if you've kept up too much with the new Mardu deck that's been popping up.
Yeah,
but
the one that won like a PTQ.
yeah, but it's been all over Magic
Sure.
Online, and they just folded this card.
Fair enough.
It's like they cast Painful Truth, draw 3. You cast Radiant Flames, it's a reverse draw 3. Just kills all their, just kills their board.
So Mardu, maybe the Mirror if you're going a little more controlling than them.
Maybe. Mostly for Tarka.
A Tarka Red. All right. Well, Todd, I wish you the best of luck here in the standard portion and legacy portion and the modern portion, but thanks for taking the time to side us in from the sideboard for your Jeskai Black Deck Tech.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, you guys stay tuned for more action here at the Players' Championship.